Welcome back to the Deep Dives, where we tear apart conventional wisdom and look for the financial rules that truly successful operate by. Today, we are strapping in for a full-scale philosophical rewiring. We're analyzing the roadmap laid out by the book, often called the #1 personal finance blueprint of all time.
That's a big one.
It's a huge one. We're going deep into a philosophy that argues that the conventional path, get good grades, get a secure job, is actually a guaranteed route to long-term financial struggle, not freedom.
That is the core conflict we are exploring, and it's why this deep dive is so potent. I mean, this is not a conversation about which mutual fund to buy.
Not at all.
It's about internalizing a completely different operating system for your brain regarding money. Our source material argues, and I think pretty intensely, that academic success and financial success are completely separate disciplines.
Right.
And that the wealthy, well, they follow a set of rules that most people never even hear about.
And the mission for you, the learner, today is to really understand that tension. We are going to internalize the contrasting philosophies of two incredibly influential, yet financially opposite mentors who shaped the author's thinking.
The two dads.
The two dads.
Yeah.
The highly educated poor dad, a PhD, a high-ranking government official, and the uneducated 8th grade dropout, yet supremely wealthy, rich dad.
The author's unique position was, well, it was critical because it forced choice and critical thinking.
You mean he couldn't just accept one point of view?
Exactly. If he had only one father, he would have either accepted or, just rejected that single stream of advice entirely. But having two strong, loving fathers who constantly offered diametrically opposed views on life, on career, on money, it forced him to think.
To compare.
Yes, to compare those viewpoints and ultimately to choose his own way forward. That active process of comparison and choice, he found, was infinitely more valuable than just passively accepting any single doctrine. I mean, that was the genesis of his financial intelligence.
And the contrast in those doctrines was stunning, particularly when it came to the very concept of money. Poor dad, the academic, he viewed wealth with suspicion, often quoting, "The love of money is the root of all evil."
A classic. While rich dad, the consummate entrepreneur and capitalist, countered that money itself isn't the problem. It's the absence of it.
Yeah.
He declared, the lack of money is the root of all evil. And that, right there, it just sets the tone for everything we're going to discuss today. It reframes the entire argument from sort of a moral position to a pragmatic, operational one.
And if we look at the core thesis that underpins this whole system, it's remarkably blunt. The struggle faced by the poor and the middle class is rooted in the fact that they spend years in formal education learning how to be employees, learning nothing at all about how money actually works.
Right. They learned to work for money, but they never, ever learned how to structure their lives and their assets to have money work for them.
They were trained for one side of the equation, completely ignoring the other. Okay, let's unpack the very first lesson, because it really proves that financial freedom is primarily a psychological game. It doesn't start with stocks or real estate.
No.
It starts with how you use your own mind, specifically, the power of your vocabulary and your mindset. When poor dad faced a desire he couldn't immediately satisfy, what was his immediate phrase?
It was the ultimate mental shutdown. I can't afford it.
Right.
Rich dad called that phrase lazy because it stops the thinking process immediately. It accepts defeat. It's a dead end.
Instead, rich dad insisted that the boys ask a question.
A question, not a statement. He made them ask, how can I afford it?
Which feels like such a small shift.
It feels small, but it's everything. One is a defeatist statement that gives your brain permission to just, rest. The other is a creative question that forces the brain, which, as Rich Dad often said, is the most powerful computer in the world to exercise and find solutions.
So it's like a mental workout.
It is. If you constantly tell yourself, I can't afford it, your brain accepts that order and shuts down. But if you ask, how can I afford it, your brain immediately starts analyzing opportunities, resources, methods. This subtle shift in linguistics, it links your mental strength directly to your financial potential.
And this wasn't just a theory for him. This observation was based on reality. The author saw that his poor dad was poor, not because of a low income.
No, he was a highly paid government official.
Right. He was poor because of his self-limiting thoughts and, well, the actions that came from those thoughts. His fear and his skepticism governed his entire financial life.
This clarity leads directly into lesson number 1. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them.
Okay.
And the critical mechanism that keeps people trapped working for money is not the economy. It's not their boss. It's the role of emotion. Most people are directed by two immensely strong, often unconscious emotions: fear and greed.
You mean that constant low-level hum of anxiety? The fear of not being able to pay the bills, the fear of being fired?
Exactly. And then the desire for a bigger house or a better vacation. Greed. Fear of not having money keeps most people tethered to a job they might hate. They react emotionally instead of confronting that fear logically. Then, when they get a paycheck, greed and desire kick in, and they immediately react by consuming, buying a luxury, or upgrading their lifestyle instead of thinking about investment.
And that creates the cycle.
It creates the cycle where they become slaves to money. They chase a raise, hoping the fear will finally go away, but a raise only increases their expenses and their tax burden, which just makes the trap stronger.
And to demonstrate this, Rich Dad deliberately manipulated the boy's emotions. It's a fantastic story.
It is.
He initially paid the author and his friend Mike 10 cents an hour at the store, but then he just completely eliminated their pay, forced them to work for nothing.
That decision was pure genius, pedagogically speaking. He did it to provoke anger, desire, and frustration.
He wanted them to feel it.
He needed them to feel it. He recognized that true learning requires energy, passion, and a burning desire for change. Passion, for him, was this fusion of anger and love. If the boys had just, accepted the zero pay without complaint, or if they had quit immediately, he wouldn't have been able to teach them the lesson.
But they got angry.
They got angry. Their visible anger and their immediate curiosity, this is unfair, what gives? That showed that they had the required energy for a real financial education.
That emotional mastery is the key to escaping what he called the rat race.
Right.
Rich Dad defined the rat race not just as working, but as that soul-crushing pattern of get up, go to work, pay bills, get up, go to work, pay bills.
Yeah.
A life forever controlled by the fear of poverty and the greed for consumption.
And this is where the education system fails the most. Rich Dad observed that most employees, they only ask for a job and a steady paycheck.
Right, security.
Security. They never ask for the knowledge of money itself. They genuinely believe that the solution to their financial struggles is a raise, or a promotion, or a new job with a bigger title. But in almost every case, a higher income simply leads to higher taxes and proportional increases in expenses, which just tightens the constraints of the rat race instead of loosening them.
So the resolution isn't about finding a better employer or a better market.
No.
It lies in internal restructuring. Rich Dad stressed it was about changing this stuff between your ears. When the author and Mike agreed to work for free, they weren't being generous, they were mastering their emotions. And when they later resisted the temptation of being offered a raise, they demonstrated that they could think logically despite emotional pressure. That was the crucial first step.
And that learning immediately led to the famous comic book library anecdote, where the lesson shifted from psychological to, practical application.
I love this story.
It's great. Since they were no longer being paid, they were forced to use their imagination and actively look for opportunities to generate passive income.
And the opportunity was so subtle, something a highly paid employee just looking for their next paycheck might miss entirely.
Totally. Mrs. Martin, the store owner, was legally required to cut the covers off unsold comic books to return them for credit, and the rest were just discarded, thrown away.
But they weren't worthless.
They realized those discarded books still had value, so they got permission from the distributor to take the remnants. Then, instead of selling them one by one, they created an asset.
A library.
A library in Mike's basement, charging 10 cents admission for a few hours a day. And here's the genius in the detail. They hired Mike's younger sister for $1 a week to manage the library and collect the 10-cent fees.
That is the moment they crossed the line.
That's a moment.
The asset was generating cash flow even when they weren't physically present. They were not dependent on an employer. They were in control of their own finances. And the cash flowed from the asset column, which was their first true success in making money work for them.
They learned the secret early. The goal is to set up systems that generate income, not just to clock in hours.
Okay, so if Lesson 1 taught us the psychological trap of fear and greed, Lesson 2 gives us the precise language and structure required to escape it. This lesson lays the foundation for all future financial security. And the core message is so powerful. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep.
And even more critically, for how many generations you keep it.
Right.
This concept of keeping wealth is where financial literacy becomes the foundation. The source uses this chilling historical anecdote to prove that high income is meaningless without knowledge.
The one from the 1920s.
Yes, it refers to the 1923 gathering of the world's richest businessmen at the Edgewater Beach Hotel in Chicago. I mean, these were the men who were the epitome of industrial power and wealth. Titans like Charles Schwab, head of the largest steel company, Samuel Insull.
These were the 1% of the 1% of their time. So what happened to them?
Well, within 25 years, the majority of them died penniless, went insane, or committed suicide. Their massive income and net worth proved to be utterly unstable because they lacked the intelligence to preserve and grow that wealth under changing economic conditions.
So it wasn't a fluke.
Not at all. As the source material says, intelligence solves problems and produces money, but money acquired without financial intelligence is money soon gone. If you want financial freedom, the metaphorical empire state building, you need to dig a deep hole and pour a massive foundation, not just a 6-inch concrete slab.
And that foundation is the ability to read and understand numbers.
Exactly.
Which brings us to rule number 1, the simplest yet most, I guess, complex rule in this philosophy. Rich people acquire assets. The poor middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets.
That is the ultimate financial deception in modern society. And the definition Rich Dad provides, it just cuts through all the complexity of accounting textbooks.
It's so simple.
It's just an asset puts money in my pocket. A liability takes money out of my pocket. It is purely a cash flow definition. That's it.
And Rich Dad stresses that the numbers are the ultimate truth teller. You have to be able to read the cash flow story.
Yes. Words alone are confusing. I mean, a dictionary might define an asset as something valuable you own, but numbers tell you the truth about where the money is actually flowing.
So if you can't read the numbers...
You can't tell an asset from a hole in the ground that is just draining your resources.
So let's visualize those cash flow diagrams because they really illustrate the fundamental difference in life paths.
Absolutely. So for a poor person, the cash flow is a straight line. Income comes in from a job or salary.
And goes right out.
Right out into expenses, taxes, rent, food. They have little to no money for an asset column. The focus is always just on making ends meet this month.
Now, the middle class, this is the trap.
This is the dangerous one. Income, so their salary, increases, but this is immediately followed by proportional increases in expenses, higher taxes, bigger mortgage payments, car payments, and liabilities.
The mortgage itself, car loans, credit card debt.
Right. Their paycheck defines their capacity to take on more debt. They look successful. You know, they have the nice house, the nice car.
But their income is entirely consumed by servicing their liabilities.
And when their income stops, those liabilities just destroy them.
Okay, so then contrast that with the rich person's diagram.
It's an inverted model. Income rental checks, dividends, royalties flows from a constantly growing assets column.
From real estate, stocks, intellectual property.
Exactly. And the income is then systematically channeled back into the assets column to accelerate growth. Expenses, including their home mortgage and consumer spending, are covered by the asset income.
Which isolates their lifestyle from their physical labor.
Completely.
I have to push back on that middle-class trap diagram, though. I mean, for millions of people, particularly in the U.S., a primary residence is the only significant wealth-building vehicle they ever successfully acquire. Isn't dismissing the home outright as a liability a little?
It's a provocative challenge, for sure. But Rich Dad's point is strictly about cash flow and financial risk management. It's not about emotional value.
Okay.
While a house can appreciate in value over decades, making it technically an asset upon sale, its function for the majority of its life is that of a liability.
Because it's taking money out of your pocket.
Every single month. Mortgage principal, interest, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities. That continuous negative cash flow demands constant earned income just to service it.
So the problem isn't owning a home, it's owning it first.
Exactly. It ties up immense amounts of capital in a non-income producing vehicle. This creates a severe opportunity cost. If all your capital is tied up in your home equity, you are forced to work harder just to maintain that liability rather than having that capital work for you in income producing assets.
Not to mention the hidden costs.
Oh, the hidden costs.
Yeah.
Especially rising property taxes and maintenance. These often force people to sell their homes in retirement just to cover expenses, proving the home was a burden, not a source of income.
So the intelligent approach approach, then, is radically different.
It is. The financially intelligent person acquires assets that generate cash flow first. Then they use that passive income generated by the assets to pay for their lifestyle, including their house.
So the house becomes a reward.
A reward and a consequence of financial intelligence, not a heavy, risk-filled financial burden that you're chained to.
This reframing demands a new definition of wealth. Rich Dad adopted R. Buckminster Fuller's classic definition.
Yes. Fuller defined wealth as a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward if they stopped working today.
It's so clear. It's a precise time-based measure of survivability, not some subjective net worth figure.
Right.
So the ultimate goal isn't having $1 million house or a high salary. It is reaching the point where the cash flow generated by your asset column equals or exceeds your monthly expenses.
Once you achieve that equilibrium, you are financially independent. You're free from the need to trade your labor for survival.
And the rich just keep going.
The rich then continually reinvest the surplus cash flow back into the asset column, accelerating the growth, making them richer and richer from sources that are completely disconnected from their physical presence or their labor.
Most of us are trained by our traditional schooling to focus intensely on our profession. Becoming the best accountant, the best lawyer, the best engineer.
Right.
But this is where Rich Dad introduces lesson 3. Mind your own business.
This concept is so incredibly important because it separates your professional identity from your financial engine.
How so?
Well, when people are asked, what is your business? They automatically respond with their profession. I'm a pilot or I'm a teacher.
And Rich Dad's retort was always,
Do you own the airline? Do you own the school?
Ah.
Most people spend their entire lives minding someone else's business and making that employer rich.
So financial security isn't achieved by chasing raises or promotions in your income column.
No. It's achieved by diligently focusing on and nurturing your asset column. Your profession, your job, is merely how you generate the initial capital, the earned income.
But your business is something else entirely.
Your business is the calculated acquisition of real assets.
And no story illustrates this distinction better than Ray Kroc and McDonald's. It's a textbook example of minding your own business.
It's perfect. Kroc once asked a group of sophisticated MBA students what business he was in, and they all confidently shouted, hamburgers.
And he said they were wrong.
He told them they were wrong. His business, he declared, was real estate.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because that's not just a cute quote, it's an operational strategy.
It is the operational secret of the rich. While Kroc focused on selling franchises and ensuring product consistency, he never lost sight of the fundamental value generator, the land.
So McDonald's isn't a food company.
McDonald's became, by sheer scale, the largest single owner of real estate globally by making franchise owners buy the land or enter into long-term leases for the corporation. The secret is that the successful business owner builds systems and owns the underlying assets. The land, the patents, the distribution networks, not just the daily product.
Okay, so for our listener, if their profession is, say, software development, what kinds of assets should they be building in their spare time? What falls under the category of real assets?
The source material is very specific on this. The list of real assets that put money in your pocket includes 1, businesses that do not require your presence.
So managed by others. It's not just another job.
Correct. 2, stocks and bonds, your paper assets.
Yeah.
3, income-generating real estate, like rentals or commercial property. 4, notes or IOUs, so debt instruments where you are the lender.
Okay.
And 5, royalties from intellectual property, like books, patents, or music.
Rich Dad also provided some crucial psychological advice regarding asset acquisition.
He did. He advised acquiring assets that you love. This is so important because assets require work, they require management and problem solving, especially in the early stages.
So if you hate dealing with tenants,
If you hate dealing with tenants, you will fail when problems inevitably arise. Your passion is the fuel that helps you persevere through market downturns or tenant issues.
this feeds directly into the sociological observation regarding consumption, the rule of luxuries.
Mm-hmm.
And this rule is often just completely inverted for the middle class.
Oh, absolutely. The poor and middle class buy luxuries first, often using credit to project an image of wealth.
So that's the definition of a liability.
It is. The expensive car or the big TV is taking money out of their pocket every month, plunging them deeper and deeper into debt.
The rich operate in reverse. They buy luxuries last.
Yes, using the cash flow generated by their asset column. The author recounts waiting 4 years after acquiring an apartment complex before buying his wife, Kim, the Mercedes she wanted. 4 years. By that time, the portfolio had generated enough surplus passive cash flow to pay for the car outright. That purchase was transformed from a burden into a reward, a true measure of financial success, paid for by money that was working hard for them, not by money they worked hard for.
And it avoids resentment.
Exactly.
Why?
If you buy the luxury on credit, you end up resenting the item because the debt becomes this heavy weight.
We've established that the rich have money work for them
Right.
and that they focus on assets.
Right.
Now we dive into the structure that protects and accelerates that wealth accumulation, the legal and tax system.
Right.
We start with the historical irony of income tax, what Rich Dad called the Robin Hood effect.
This is where understanding history meets financial intelligence. So income tax was made permanent in the U.S. in 1913.
And how was it sold to the public?
It was overwhelmingly sold to the populace as a means to punish and tax only the rich, noble social concept. But Rich Dad called Robin Hood a crook for this very reason. The government's appetite for revenue grew so large, so quickly, that the tax burden inevitably trickled down, ultimately punishing the very people who voted for it, the poor and the middle class.
And the rich, as true capitalists, didn't just sit there and accept a higher tax burden.
Of course not. They reacted. They mobilized.
What did they do?
They reacted by hiring the best lawyers and accountants to legally find escapes. And this is where the corporation becomes the ultimate financial shield.
The corporation.
The corporate structure itself is ancient. It was popularized in the days of sailing ships as a legal structure to limit risk. The investor risked only the capital they put into the voyage, while the crew risked their lives.
And today?
Today, a corporation is merely a legal document, a body without a soul, but it is the greatest financial advantage in the world.
Okay, let's be technical here. How exactly does the corporate structure give the rich such a vast advantage over the average employee?
The primary advantage is the taxation sequence. It's all about the order of operations.
Okay, break that down for us.
Consider the path for an employee. You earn income, the government immediately takes its share, you're taxed first, and then you spend what's left. You're spending after-tax dollars.
Right.
Now, consider the path for a corporation owned by an investor, someone in the B or I quadrant. The corporation earns income. It spends everything it legally can on operating expenses.
And this can include what?
Cars, travel, business dinners, professional education. And it is only taxed on the net amount remaining.
Wait, let's clarify that for the listener. The corporation pays its legitimate expenses with pre-tax dollars. So it's essentially turning some personal luxuries or necessary expenditures into business deductions.
That is the magic. If you are an employee, your travel to a seminar or your nice car is purchased with money that has already been taxed at the highest ordinary income rate.
But if you own a corporation,
If you own a corporation and that car or travel serves a legitimate business purpose, the corporation buys it with pre-tax dollars. The wealthy, therefore, legally pay for many aspects of their lifestyle before the government ever gets a chance to tax the money. It functions as a massive legal tax loophole.
okay, but how close does that strategy skate to unethical practices?
Yeah.
Where is the line for the average listener who wants to implement this?
Well, the line is defined by the law. Financial intelligence is required to understand the difference between a legitimate deduction and abuse.
Right.
The key is using the corporate structure for genuine business activities, ensuring you have proper records, and using excellent accountants who specialize in this structure. The strategy isn't to commit fraud. It is simply to play by the rules the rich wrote and use the tools available. The rich are playing the game on a professional, legal level that most employees don't even know exists.
And the second major advantage of the corporate structure is asset protection from lawsuits. Correct.
Absolutely vital in a litigious society. The rich use corporations, holding companies, and various trusts to legally house and protect their assets. When someone sues a wealthy individual, they often find that the person controls everything. They manage the assets, they direct the income, but legally they own nothing.
So the wealth is owned by the entity.
All the wealth is owned by a corporate entity or a trust. This makes them extremely poor targets for lawsuits, insulating their capital.
This all hinges on what Rich Dad called financial intelligence, or financial IQ. And it's not enough to be a great professional. You need to master these 4 components.
This is the curriculum they don't teach in schools. First, accounting. This is financial literacy, the ability to read and understand financial statements, the detail-oriented left brain skill. You have to know your numbers. Second is investing. This is the science of making money, which requires creative, right brain strategies to find opportunities.
Okay, third is understanding markets.
Yes, the science of supply and demand, understanding both the emotional aspects like technical analysis and market sentiment and the economic fundamentals.
And finally, the law.
The law, the ability to use the corporate structure LLCs, S Corp, C Corp, trusts for maximum tax advantage and asset protection, ensuring that the wealth you create actually stays with you.
So if the listener is just starting out, forming an LLC or a basic C Corp might seem, really intimidating. Can you briefly differentiate how these structures relate to the different types of income?
I can. The goal is always to move money from highly taxed ordinary income to low-taxed passive or portfolio income. A simple LLC offers legal separation and some liability protection. It's often useful for managing small real estate deals or a side business. A C Corp, on the other hand, offers the ultimate tax flexibility for reinvestment because income is taxed at the corporate level, which is often lower than personal rates.
So that allows for faster compounding.
Faster compounding before dividends are ever paid out. And then trusts are primarily for long-term asset protection and estate planning. You need to understand which legal tool protects which type of income. Real estate, which is passive, often uses different structures than stock trading, which is portfolio.
So the ultimate choice is clear. Either you work for the corporation as the docile cow ready for milking, or you own the latter by forming your own corporation and using these advantages to build and protect wealth faster than anyone relying solely on a paycheck.
Sure.
Lesson 5 is about innovation and creativity. In the information age, the rules are constantly changing, and wealth is increasingly concentrated in information, which moves faster than ever before. This creates unprecedented opportunities for those who can think creatively.
The difficulty for most people, though, is that they cling to outdated ideas. Old advice like work hard and save every penny becomes a massive liability because it prevents people from seeing or seizing new opportunities that require creative thought and smart leverage.
So it's not a lack of information.
No, the true obstacle isn't a lack of technical information. There are thousands of investment books. It's self-doubt and the fear of taking a calculated risk. People are just paralyzed by the fear of losing money, so they miss the winning opportunities.
And this leads to the idea that financial intelligence is essentially having options.
That's a great way to put it.
When problems arise, a market crash, an unforeseen expense, a bad deal, the financially intelligent person has multiple solutions ready to deploy, whereas the financially unsophisticated person sees only one path: work harder for more money.
Rich Dad was famous for the quote, "Luck is created just as money is."
I love that.
If you sit around waiting for the perfect opportunity to arrive, you will be waiting for a very, very long time. The single most powerful asset we all possess is our mind. An untrained, fearful mind creates extreme poverty. But a trained, creative mind can literally create enormous wealth, seemingly instantaneously, simply through ideas, agreements, and the legal structuring of those agreements. Millions can be made from nothing but a handshake or an agreement on paper.
Let's illustrate this concept of money invention with the powerful Phoenix real estate example from the early 1990s when the market was depressed.
Right.
This anecdote is proof that money doesn't make money. Ideas make money.
So the author spotted an opportunity. Foreclosure houses that were once worth $100,000 were now selling for $20,000 or less, even though the overall market was trending upward toward $75,000 for non-foreclosures.
So there's a gap.
A huge gap. And the key was leveraging the opportunity with minimal cash. He borrowed $2,000 from a friend for 90 days, paying $200 interest, and used that as a down payment to tie up a $20,000 foreclosure property.
So he used OPM, other people's money, to secure the deal. He didn't spend months fixing it up or searching for a tenant.
No, he immediately advertised the house for $60,000, well below market value, but 3 times what he paid for it, with a crucial caveat: no money down.
And the phone rang off the hook.
Of course. He sold the house instantly. He collected a $2,500 processing fee, paid back his friend the $2,200, and here's the essential step. The $40,000 profit was converted not into immediate cash, which would be taxed, but into a long-term promissory note from the buyer.
What was the bottom line result of this 5 hours of creative work?
He created $40,000 in assets with zero capital investment since he repaid the borrowed money and covered the interest with the processing fee. The promissory note generated $4,000 in annual passive income, much of it sheltered through his private corporation structure.
And he didn't stop there.
He repeated this. Through 6 similar transactions in his spare time, he created $190,000 in assets, generating nearly $20,000 a year in income.
Now, let's explicitly contrast this with the conventional wisdom option 1, which is preached in schools.
Work hard, pay 50% in tax on that income, save what is left, and then earn 5% interest on that savings, which is also taxed.
It's night and day.
It's night and day, and it highlights why money is an idea. Option 1 requires 40 years of struggle and constant dependence on employment just to accumulate a fraction of that $190,000, which will be continually eroded by inflation and taxes.
Whereas option 2.
Option 3, using financial intelligence to invent $190,000 in assets in about 30 hours of focused, creative work, simply proves that true wealth comes from understanding the game of law and leverage. It demonstrates that you don't need high income or huge savings to start, you just need a better formula.
Financial literacy and great ideas are only half the battle. The source material is very clear that smart, educated people often fail because of internal psychological barriers. So we have to address the 5 emotional and psychological obstacles that prevent even the financially literate from making the jump and building assets.
Starting with number 1, fear. The fear of losing money is universal. Rich dads stress that the difference between the rich and the poor isn't the presence of fear, but how they manage it.
So how do winners manage it differently?
Winners view losing as an integral, non-negotiable part of the learning process. You cannot learn to ride a bike without falling down.
Right.
The moment you accept that failure is a necessary feedback mechanism, the fear loses its paralyzing grip. Rich Dad loved the Texas attitude here. Texans live large, they are proud when they win, and they often brag about their losses.
If you're going to go broke, go big.
Exactly. He used the example of the Alamo, a massive military defeat that was turned into an inspiration. People who avoid failure also, by definition, avoid success. Winners take a loss, learn the lesson, and turn it into fuel to cross the line when others are backing out.
Obstacle number 2 is cynicism. This is that paralyzing doubt, the inner Chicken Little that screams, the sky is falling, every time an opportunity is presented.
Cynicism is simply unmanaged doubt, fear, and intellectual laziness. The cynic criticizes, that deal is too risky, I heard the market is crashing. The winner analyzes the risk and looks for the hidden opportunity.
So when everyone else is scared, that's the time to act.
That's the best time to enter the market because assets are on sale. The critic focuses on the I don't wants, like saying, I don't want to fix toilets, when presented with a high cash flow rental property deal.
And the moment they focus on the toilet or the tenant complaint, they deny themselves the use of the powerful income-generating asset. They let the small I don't want override the big I want, which is financial freedom.
Precisely. The solution is to analyze, not criticize. To overcome the internal Chicken Little, Rich Dad suggested doing what Colonel Sanders did. Sanders was turned down 1,009 times before succeeding in franchising Kentucky Fried Chicken in his 60s.
Wow.
That level of tenacity is required to fry your little chicken of doubt.
Okay, moving to obstacle number 3, laziness. And this isn't just physical sloth, this is mental laziness, often disguised as extreme busyness.
Oh, absolutely. Busy people are often the most lazy. They use busyness working long hours, bringing work home, constantly scheduling activities to hide emotional or relational problems, keeping themselves safely within their financial comfort zone.
So they avoid the hard questions.
They avoid confronting the truth about their financial situation because that requires difficult thought and change. The cure for this mental laziness is a dose of passion or greed, that spirit that says, I'm sick and tired of the struggle, I deserve more. The lazy mind automatically reverts to, it's too much bother, or I don't have time, shutting down the potential for creative solutions and opportunities.
Obstacle number 4 is bad habits. And the source material highlights the single worst financial habit most people possess.
Paying yourself last.
Right.
This is truly counterintuitive. Most people follow the conventional wisdom. Pay the government first, pay the mortgage, pay the credit card, pay the grocery store, and if there's anything left over, they put a small amount into savings or investments.
But Rich Dad advocated the opposite.
A radical strategy. Pay yourself first. Immediately move money to the asset column, even when you're short on cash.
That seems genuinely reckless. If I pay myself first and then can't pay the IRS or the bank, don't I risk massive penalties just to prove a point?
This is where the wisdom lies. The pressure from screaming creditors and the government, who will definitely yell louder than you will at yourself, forces you to find new forms of income.
So that pressure is actually a tool.
That external pressure becomes your ultimate motivation, forcing you to think harder, negotiate better, and find smarter ways to generate the necessary cash. If you pay yourself last, you feel no pressure to find new deals or make new money, and you remain financially stagnant. You are essentially leveraging the fear of external liability to build powerful internal financial intelligence.
And finally, obstacle number 5, arrogance.
Arrogance is a mask for ignorance, and it is fatal in the world of money. Rich Dad was clear. What I know makes me money. What I don't know loses me money. Every time I have been arrogant, I have lost money.
And arrogance manifests as
Believing that what you don't know isn't important, or worse, pretending you know more than you do. In a rapidly changing financial world, if you are ignorant about a subject, be it cryptocurrency, real estate law, or commodity trading, you must be humble enough to find an expert or a book immediately and educate yourself thoroughly. The arrogant man ignores the details and loses the shirt off his back.
Okay, once you've recognized and begun to overcome those 5 internal wobbling blocks, the acquisition of wealth moves from an academic concept to a very practical, low-aptitude game.
It does.
It requires more emotional courage and attitude than high-level math. So let's look at the 10 steps the author followed to awaken his own financial genius and start moving money into that asset column.
Step 1. Find a reason greater than reality. Your emotional purpose has to be strong enough to overcome the hard reality of the road ahead. The inevitable losses, the market dips, the setbacks.
The why.
The why. If your desire for freedom, say quitting your job or traveling the world, isn't stronger than the fear of losing that first investment, you will fold before you even begin.
Step 2. Make daily choices. This is a choice of focus. You consciously choose what you put in your mind. Do you invest your time watching entertainment, or do you invest in education?
The real asset you have is your mind. Rich Dad stressed that most people buy an investment first, rather than investing and learning about investing first. That upfront investment in seminars, books, and courses is essential.
Step 3. Choose your friends carefully. Associate actively with financially intelligent people.
This is huge. They are your immediate eyes and ears in the market, providing the legal, critical insider information that makes the biggest difference. The sooner you know about a deal, the pre-market, pre-listing opportunity, the better your chances for profit with minimal risk.
And if your friends are cynics?
If your friends are cynics or chicken littles, you will quickly adopt their mindset and miss every single boat.
Step 4. Master a formula, then learn a new one. The power of learning quickly. Most people stick to the single, rigid formula they learned in school. Trade time for money.
Right. But in today's fast-changing economy, it's not so much what you know, but how fast you learn and adapt that is truly priceless.
So you become what you study.
You do. Once you master a successful recipe for making money, say, buying real estate foreclosures with certain leverage, you immediately search for a faster, better, or more efficient formula. Learning quickly is the most valuable skill because it allows you to adapt old formulas and capitalize on opportunities in a matter of weeks that take others a lifetime.
Step 5. Pay yourself first. This is the discipline we discussed earlier, and it bears repeating because it's so counterintuitive. This is the act of allocating money to your asset column before paying any other expense, even when facing a shortage.
And that pressure from creditors forces creativity and financial intelligence. You use that external liability, the fear of a late bill, to inspire internal genius. You force your mind to find solutions. If you delay paying yourself, you delay your financial independence.
Step 6. Pay your brokers well. This step is all about valuing information and time. People often try to negotiate commissions down to the smallest fraction.
That's a mistake. A good broker or asset manager provides you with specialized time and information that far outweighs their commission. They are your eyes and ears in the market every day, saving you the hundreds of hours you would need to find those deals yourself.
It's a mindset shift.
It is. People who complain about paying a broker 5 or 7% happily tip restaurant staff 20%. They tip the expense column generously and stiff the asset column that actually makes them money. Your broker must be a true professional who owns assets themselves and understands the game.
Step 7. Be an Indian giver. The power of getting something for nothing. This is probably the most confusing term on the list, so let's be specific about what this means in a financial context.
This is the mindset of the sophisticated investor focused relentlessly on ROI, return on investment. When approaching any deal, their first question is, how fast do I get my initial money back? They look to put cash in, structure the deal, secure the asset, and then find a way to extract their initial cash investment, leaving the asset to generate future income while their capital is free to go look for the next deal.
So let's use a mini scenario. If I invest $20,000 to buy and repair a rental property, how does the Indian giver strategy apply?
It means you negotiate the purchase, renovate the property, get a tenant in place, and then immediately refinance or negotiate a subsequent cash-out deal, often a new bank loan or a partnership agreement, that pulls your original $20,000 back out.
And then your return becomes infinite.
Your return on investment at that point becomes infinite, and your capital is ready to deploy again. That rapid velocity of capital is the secret.
Step 8. Use assets to buy luxuries.
Yeah.
The power of focus. This reinforces the rule of luxuries, but as a motivational tool.
Yes. You must use the desire to consume to inspire and motivate smart investment rather than using credit. If you want that new watch or that expensive vacation, first acquire an asset that generates the exact cash flow needed to pay for it entirely.
The story of his son and the car.
A great example. His son wanted a car. Instead of just buying it for him, his father gave him $3,000 and told him to use it to trade stocks and turn it into the $6,000 needed for the car. The son lost money, but his interest in learning skyrocketed. He learned the value of creating money before consuming it.
Step 9. Choose heroes. The power of myth. Emulate the strategies, the mindset, and even the bravado of financial giants.
By studying the history and the viewpoints of titans like Warren Buffett, Peter Lynch, or other successful figures in whatever field you choose, you tap into a tremendous source of raw genius and courage. Heroes make things look easy and convince us that if they achieved it, so can we.
They give you a roadmap and belief.
Exactly.
And step 10. Teach, and you shall receive. The power of giving. Both of the author's fathers were teachers in different ways.
The more you teach, the more you give. Whether it's knowledge, connections, or actual money, the more it will return to you in multiples. If you want to learn about money, teach it to someone else. The principle of reciprocity ensures that a torrent of new ideas and bounty will follow the giving process. This is about aligning your spiritual well-being with your financial intelligence.
Finally, for those who want immediate, concrete actions, the specific to-dos, the source material emphasizes that action always beats inaction.
Yes, stop doing what isn't working, assess your position, and look for new ideas.
And make lots of offers.
Make lots of offers. You don't know the real price of anything until someone is willing to deal, so offer half of what they ask. The act of negotiating and engaging in the market is fun. Crucially, jog, walk, or drive a specific area once a month looking for two key elements: a bargain and change.
A bargain and change.
A bargain is only profitable when combined with change. A new development, a zoning change, a new tax rule. Change is what turns a stagnant asset into a profitable opportunity. And always shop for bargains when the market crashes, not when it booms. Consumers buy when prices are high. Investors buy when the market is on sale.
So we circle back to the ultimate financial objective. To be truly rich and secure, you have to actively convert highly taxed income into lower taxed income streams.
That's the whole game. The goal is to move capital from highly taxed ordinary earned income, so the salary from the E and S quadrants, into low-taxed passive income like rental real estate and portfolio income, which is paper assets.
And the government taxes earned income the most.
The income you work hard for is taxed the most, meaning the faster you convert earned income into assets that generate passive or portfolio income, the faster you achieve wealth.
This brings us back to the cash flow quadrant, the 4 types of people who make up the financial world. E for employee, S for self-employed or small business.
B for big business owner, and I for investor. Financial freedom is found most quickly and sustainably on the B&I side. The source shares a powerful, tragic example of a successful classmate who became a highly paid lawyer.
He was trapped in the S quadrant.
Trapped. Deeply unhappy, emotionally and spiritually drained. He couldn't afford to stop working because his bills and his liabilities were too high. He died young, illustrating the critical danger of pursuing a profession purely for status or income without aligning it with your true life's path toward financial independence.
And that leads to the final word on education. Traditional scholastic education is incomplete. To make a permanent change, to genuinely move quadrants, you need complete education. mind, body, emotion, and spirit.
Without emotional and spiritual strength, the fear of change, loss, and rejection will keep people tethered to jobs they hate and financial habits that destroy their wealth. It's like telling an overweight person to just eat less. That rarely works unless you address the underlying emotional or spiritual emptiness that leads to the self-defeating behavior.
Same with money.
It is. Financial intelligence requires developing the whole person so you are strong enough to fail, learn, and persevere.
And here's the provocative thought for you, the learner, to carry forward. Rich Dad was absolutely emphatic on this point. The idea that it takes money to make money is the thinking of financially unsophisticated people. Money is only an idea.
You have the power of choice every single day. That choice determines what you choose to put in your head, whether it's old, fearful, rigid ideas or new, creative financial formulas. Your choices today determine what is in your hands tomorrow. So what one idea will you choose to transform into wealth and freedom today?